Boys and girls, children of all ages, it is your favorite time of the week, wrestling chat with friends. Meow, meow, meow,
Meow, meow,
meow.
meow, meow.
Y'all are like,
Meow.
thank you, Elliott,
Meow.
for backing me up there. Y'all are supposed to make
Meow.
fun DJ noises. As always, I am Megan Rickman Blackwood, your favorite heel in heels, the queen of quarantine. And I am happy to be joined this week by some of my favorite regulars. First, as always, Cheats Two Belts.
In the building. Excited.
In the
Megan,
building.
welcome back. We missed you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We know that you hosted some youth spoken word champions.
I did.
Congratulations.
Let's Go Open High. RPS had their first district-wide poetry slam competition, and my lovely babies from Open High that I got to coach for a few months took the whole thing. They are the first annual champions for that competition, so it was really cool. Thank you for shouting that out. We are also joined by Elliott the Collector. What's up, Elliott? How you doing this week?
Hey, yo, I'm here. I'm present. I'm accounted for, and I'm accountable. My collector's choice this week, I'm debuting it right here. Probably the
Ooh.
first piece of physical merchandise from our show, the flyers that have been printed out, which will be distributed somewhere, sometime in the next 10 minutes to 96 hours in some undisclosed location. Anyway, real excited to do it. Can't wait. Can't wait for the show. Let's get it on.
I'm super excited. I also feel like there might be a good opportunity this weekend to hand out a few of those flyers.
Where can we go and do that on some day this weekend?
This weekend at a place, maybe. And we finally have a gimmick, and I'm really excited, Tom, because I keep trying to give you a gimmick, and you finally came up with one of your own, and I couldn't be more proud. So I introduced to you for the first time the ultimate worrier, not warrior, worrier, as in worried about things in an ultimate fashion. How you doing this week?
I'm doing great. If you were to evaluate your pride level for me, for this name, and your students for winning the poetry slam, what's the relative scale there?
There is no relativity. It's just,
okay.
it's just a general pride.
I feel great.
But I mean, it was creative,
It makes it all
and
worth
it
it.
could pass for a poem in some venues. So we'll go
Very
with
short
it.
poem. Excellent. I feel great. Glad to be here. Honored as always.
We are happy to have you all, and as always, we have to start with the way we always start. It is what we are popping for this week, and there's been a lot of fun wrestling. So let's go, Cheats. Start us off. Who are you popping for? What are you popping for? Was there a particular match that got you going?
I've got two quick ones.
Okay.
The first one is non-wrestling, but exciting none the same.
Okay.
If you've been paying attention to what's been happening on social media, apparently the handlers of John Cena woke up and followed 500, 600 plus social media accounts dealing with wrestling specifically. I am honored to announce we made the cut. John Cena is following WCWF Pod on Twitter, as he is now following. It had to be 1,000 plus, but still, we're in the mix, and I'm popping for the fact that John Cena follows our little podcast, and it's very exciting. So that's the first one that's out of the ring. Secondly, I got these specifically from my homie Cam. If you'll see right here, it's a Jeff Hardy and a Darby Allin.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I am popping for their main event match on Dynamite that I thought was well done, really well done. Didn't know who was going to win. It's very rare do I go into a match not knowing the outcome. And I felt they put on a really good show. I liked the ending. I liked Jeff Hardy going over and having to face Adam Cole. More importantly, I think Darby showed why he's Darby Allin, why he's meaningful to AEW. Really, really good. Best case scenario for those two going in the ring. I was excited to see it. That's what I'm popping for this week.
I'm right there with you. That was an absolutely amazing match. I think we saw, I don't know if we saw the torch be passed, right? Because he didn't win. But I think that even in like the promo and the build up that they did, like Jeff acknowledged that, Darby saw him as one of his, mentors / like, inspirations to wrestle the way that he does, and to see the person that encapsulated that style the best for us as young people, and then now seeing this new young generation of wrestlers, seeing that obviously it's Darby. Darby throws himself off everything. So that match was just 10 out of 10. It was a really, really enjoyable match, and it also felt very like symbolic, because I don't think any of us are kidding ourselves in thinking that Jeff has a long career ahead of him. I think this is kind of the final lap with Matt, and closing it out as the Hardy Boys. So that was really, I was a little touched. Like there were some moments where I was like, So yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. Tom, what about you? What is your favorite match of the week so far? What got you really excited?
The Darby Allin Jeff Hardy match, everything you all just said, I agree with completely. I think the thing that I really liked this week, and I always feel like I may be the biggest of this group, the current WWE fan, perhaps in this group, which is interesting because I'm kind of
I watch it. I watch it.
I watch it.
Yeah, I watch the product.
Like almost by default, I'm the biggest WWE fan because I feel like there's maybe more AEW love here. But one thing I really like that they're doing is I really liked what they're doing with Rhea Ripley and what they're doing with the Judgment Day. The one thing I don't like is that I'm sure for stupid intellectual property reasons, they're calling the group the Judgment Day because they probably already owned a mark on Judgment Day for the pay-per-view. And so they wanted a separate mark. So they're saying the Judgment Day, and that it just from a marketing standpoint just irritates me. But other than that, creatively, I really, really like what they're doing with that group. And I think that it is the best example when wrestling is at its best. It is when it takes something that is reality based and does something creative with it. And I think that the whole approach that, Edge in character is saying, here are two people who were sort of languishing, have a ton of potential, but they weren't, they were treading water, and now we're going to take them in a new direction. I think it's going to be really good for everybody involved in that group. And I really like what they're doing with it.
I second, third, concur. I watch it and I love what they're doing. I love Damian Priest involved to begin with. I love Rhea Ripley's involvement. I thought it puts it over the top. More importantly, very much like they found a really, really solid character with Roman and the Tribal Chief. This character is Edge. This dark, sinister, could be a vampire, could be a cult leader. This is what Edge does best. And he found it. He's got a stable. They can grow it. It is perfect for what Edge is right now. It's a home run. It's a home run.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Is it like, I don't watch. Is it Brood 2.0?
It's better.
It's
much better.
It's much more subtle.
Yeah,
it's not
Edge is a
cartoonish
leader.
At all.
Edge as a leader is so much more impactful and significant than when you had Gangrel as a leader. He was a placeholder almost, and you saw those two guys realizing those were the two stars. But imagine if a brain like Edge had originally taken control of the Brood. That's what it almost feels like. It's a really great. I concur with everything those guys said.
I'll watch the YouTube clip, I guess.
It's really good. And to Elliott's point, I don't think a young Edge could do this. I think it has to be the Edge that's been through everything he's been through in WWE and now has fallen into this place where it's just so spot on. It's so believable. He's much better evil. He's much better playing mind games with his opponents. And Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley are the perfect two people to be joining this. And they probably could add one or two more, honestly.
I think they will, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They will. There's a lot of rumors about who they'd add. Tommaso Ciampa would be a terrific addition.
Ciampa's a good place for this.
Yeah. Why not?
I'll check out the YouTube link, I guess.
So begrudging.
me. Just because, like, I'm a big, like, I was an Attitude Era chick, so, like, I'm still, like, I want to see Edge win. I want to see, like, you know, the people we loved back then do well, especially if they're wrapping up their careers. It's interesting to see how they choose to do that. So I'll give it a view, I guess. Elliott, what got you going this week?
Well, Cheats is spoke about it once already about John Cena following our show. That's as big as it gets. I think we all sort of felt like, okay, what do we all feel about that? It was terrific. It was the reason I popped out of my chair this week that was wrestling related. The other one,
we thought it was a prank at first, and then it turned it. We did. I thought it was like, there's no way this is a real. It's a check verified account. There's no way this is real.
I immediately rationalized it and said, somebody follows 1,000 accounts a day. It's probably some software, but it definitely is his page. But does that mean, does that theoretically mean that if we post something on that page, if he's eating cornflakes in the morning, just scrolling, of the 408,000 people that he follows, you never know. And
right.
We're dynamic personalities enough that it just may spark his interest. Anyway, in addition to that, I definitely am excited. 2 days from now, the crew is heading up to DC. We'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. But I am popped this week for just the excitement over Capital Collision. There you go.
Okay. I'm really surprised that I got to keep mine this week. I definitely thought that I was going to lose it. I knew I couldn't even bet on Jeff and Darby. I knew that was out of the picture.
Can I guess?
You can guess. Guess.
What's the guess?
It's in the chat. Oh, you guys can't see the chat. I just.
Oh no, I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
I can't see it. What did you just guess publicly? Don't be afraid of your guess. Guess.
No. It was the MJF Darkside promo.
Let me tell you, it was the whole MJF to finish.
Yeah, of course you're right.
Start to finish, it was just, it's perfection. First off, Long Island is Wonderland for a heel, and like everything from there's so much, like the way they welcome him, the way they just eat out of the palm of his hand. Even the Maxwell Jacob Freeman has such a carny family that his mom is getting over with her my shitty son forgot to wish me happy Mother's Day sign. It's just, I don't know. There is something magic about MJF in Long Island or on Long Island. Taz would have a heart attack if I said in Long Island. On Long Island, it's magic to watch. And it's also, for me, there's something about seeing that glimmer of I think he'll probably be a heel forever. It's MJF. It's in his blood. He's magnificent at it. But there's this glimmer of what MJF would be as a face, and he would be a baby face. He would be the faciest face. I think as good as he does his heel work, he would comparably do the same as a face. And I think now this is the second time we've seen them on Long Island, and people, they just love him. They love him, and it was beautiful to see.
Go ahead, guys, but absolutely hated it.
Oh, interesting.
No. I hate it. I'm staying consistent. To my show content, which is, as always, heels are supposed to be heels. And even if the heel's in your hometown, just the other week, Dan Lambert was in Baltimore, walks out with a Baltimore Orioles t-shirt and decides to rip everybody in Baltimore for sucking and not believing in him and not believing it. And then why he had to move to Florida, and you people, he got so much heat from his hometown because he comes out and says, I hate you all. I hate your guts. I'm out of here. And you're right, Megan's 100% right. Long Island had the Burberry scarves on before he walked out. They're chanting MJF like crazy. There's something actually clear, systematically and characteristically flawed by a whole community embracing what he does as this is who we are.
That's
absolutely.
Here's how. Go ahead. Sorry.
But the lean in with the dark side promo, I did think I went crazy, and then it was Barry Horowitz, who just the cap. Did anybody read the caption?
Yeah,
it's
I took a picture of it because I
random Jewish wrestler. And that part I just thought was extremely well done. It threw me back. Okay, the last thing I'll say, Elliot, is it threw me back. I don't know if you guys remember, but when AEW first came on TV, it's great, Tom. It's great.
Legendary Jewish wrestler.
But when AEW first came on the air, they actually did way more skits. And they did things like that was much more out of the box of what we were used to seeing in wrestling. And they would do just these kind of social media viral funny things, mostly led by Jericho at the time, mostly led by his faction. But they were hilarious and they were different. They were great. This was that, and it was perfect. I'm sorry.
Here's how I feel about MJF. I feel way closer to Megan's opinion than I do yours, Cheats.
I know I'm the minority.
I know. I think he is a megastar. Here's what I feel about that crowd. To your point, Mark, I think if he's so good that if he wanted to, he could have had those guys hating him if he wanted to. He was dictating what was going on. They loved him. That he could make them turn on a dime. He's that good. I think I said it the other day. I think he's the best heel in the business since those times of nuclear heel Rock. You know, right in that Attitude Era. There may have been a point where Punk in WWE may have held that title for a while when he was white hot, but I think MJF is as good as they come heel wise, and he's 26. He's got another quarter century to do this. He's a lot of wrestlers wrapped into one, in my opinion. Maybe I'm getting sucked into the hype right now, but I think he's showing it every week.
I think that
there's something to be said about how ingrained like that spirit already was in the building before MJF even came out. Because Punk, like, yes, he had the Islanders jersey with the guy who like left and went to be at the Toronto hockey team, right? Like, I know I've read enough now to understand that was part of it.
That's exactly.
But like his music hit and they were booing. I watched some like clips again from today. I watched one from the end of the show, which I want to talk about too, because it was beautiful and amazing. But there were people in CM Punk t-shirts giving him the thumbs down and screaming boo at him. Like, MJF is a special kind of dude. Like, he is an asshole. I like, he is, but he's a special dude. And like, I think AEW is really blessed to have him. And I know he made the joke about it last night about not wanting to talk about 2024, the end of his contract, but there have been some rumors that like he wants more money. Tony Khan better come out of pocket, because like, we got to keep MJF. He is he's magic. Like, he's terrible and he's awful, but he's also like the most amazing.
He's also gonna be gone. Watch.
It may be.
I think he goes.
He dropped a little joke about Cody last night, and you know, like
he will continue to be the biggest one of the bigger wrestling stars on our television, no matter where he is.
The Ariel Helwani interview, if you haven't seen it with MJF, is much more telling than anything he'll do on AEW TV. But if you watch it, he is very open and public about talking about the potential of him switching companies.
How much of that was in character on that interview?
I mean, the interview it's this really weird balance between kayfabe as a character. He's actually MJF as a character talking through the interview, very much like Paul Heyman did, but the answers are very much shoot answers. They are not answers that I think Tony Khan or anybody. The thing is, MJF has no fear of Tony Khan at this point. And if he did, he would be like the rest of the wrestlers in camp that says, I don't want to do anything to upset brass. MJF openly talks about, you know, when his contract's up, how much money he wants, and he would switch companies to get that.
Well, we will see what happens. Send that, post that link on this for that interview, and then send it to the chat for sure, because I am interested in hearing that. I don't know. It would be nuclear heat from AEW fans, but I mean, again, I think like what Elliott said, anywhere he goes, even if he goes like to TV or, falls in somewhere else, I think MJF is a star and is going to be a star for a very long time. Okay, so Owen Cup advances that we can talk about. First off, for the women's side, we have found out that Sheeta is injured and Chris Statlander will be taking her place. So Chris Statlander will be going against Red Velvet, and we have Ruby Soho going against Riho. I know at least Riho and Ruby Soho is on Friday, which means it happened last night. But we'll be seeing, I think, some more of these happening. Last night we had Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter. Toni Storm went over. First off, I'd like to know Joker predictions for the women's side. And then also overall predictions. Where do you think this is heading? Who do you think is going to take this whole thing?
Well,
I can give you the full rundown if you need
please, it. Yes.
Okay, so we had Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter. Toni Storm took that. Then we have Britt Baker against the Joker. Right. Interesting. Looking forward to seeing who that is. Then we have Riho versus Ruby Soho, which is happening on Dynamite, and Red Velvet versus initially Hikaru Shida, but now she's going to be going against Chris Statlander.
I would have predicted that we were facing a Riho versus Shida. Would that have been a semi? If that
that would have been a semi. They're on the same. They're on the same side of the bracket.
I think that's where that was headed. I think that becomes Riho versus Statlander. That's my guess. I like Chris Statlander. I think she's a very good talent. And then on the other side, I haven't given too much thought on who that Joker could be. We're not going to see a Mickie James again. So, and too early again for Deonna Purrazzo, or no?
My two biggest ones are Mia Yim and Athena. I think those are the two biggest, hottest women ones, unless they're picking someone from within the company, which I don't know who would fit that well.
Mia Yim has recently signed with TNA, and Athena would be the right one if TK has made another acquisition. That's who it would be. If it's somebody that maybe just they have, it could be.
That's if you go outside the company,
right?
So I was thinking Athena, Amber Moon, if you go outside the company, as far as the Joker. I also think inside the company, I think it's really intriguing if you try to make, I think they were trying to make Nyla Rose a face at one point recently. And I'd be interested to see if you throw Jade Cargill as the Joker, do you just have her wipe out? Do you have her wipe out? Because think, Thunder Rose is the champ. She's out of the tournament. So do you put a Brett Baker Jade Cargill final on the pay-per-view and see what happens there?
Well, Britt's going against the Joker.
Yeah, that'd be a first-round match.
Oh, okay. So that would, I don't think you do that in the first round.
Britt did get pinned clean in the ring this past Wednesday, so there may be a little shine off her. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Plus, she's also one of their top stars and can afford to maybe.
There's a chance too that she's actually not that happy right now. So there's some things. I don't buy the whole "this is why I was off TV" type thing, but there's some stuff going on with her character and her actual frequency of use, where it could be just personal, she wants time off, or it could be something's going on there. We're not sure.
Well, we will see. I'm really looking forward to, I think, honestly, looking at it the way it is now, because Toni Storm is the most recent big name get, I guess, I would be looking maybe at I don't know, I might say Ruby Soho versus Toni Storm, unless the Joker is somebody that they're bringing in and looking to give a big push to almost immediately.
That would be Toni Storm, unfortunately. They shouldn't just jump to the next person. They literally just started with Toni Storm. So,
yeah. But I mean, Ruby's been there and been in line, and I know you guys don't watch them as much. Elliott and I do some, but I watch pretty religiously. But on Dark and Dark Elevation, one thing that I think that it is important to watch that for is like the ranking padding that happens there.
Oh yeah.
When you see someone starting to show up a lot, like it's to get their wins up so that they, in the ranking system that doesn't make all the sense in the world, I'll give you guys that. But in the ranking system at AEW, like wins on Dark and Dark Elevation count. And so when they're historically, when they've been getting ready to push somebody, even like somebody like Adam Cole, like he was on Dark Elevation every week wrestling and getting his numbers up so that it was justification for him to go after the title. So I don't know, maybe Ruby. We'll see. The Joker, I think, is the big.
I love it for it to be Ruby. I love it for it to be Ruby. I believe in Ruby. I've always believed in Ruby. I think just the way it's set up, she's not going to go over this time.
Before the tournament started, I would have said I would have picked Ruby Soho as the favorite to win. But I also think there's a scenario where potentially she loses in the finals and turns heel. But I do think she'll make the finals. I think the question obviously is going to be, who the Joker is. I agree Athena is the most likely. But to Elliott's point, the thing that I worry about, we've talked about this, but the thing with AEW is you sign a new toy, you bring them in, it's a big deal for a couple of weeks, and then you're on to the next person that you add, and it's like, okay, so where do all these people figure in the pecking order? Like you gotta like chill out for a while, just see what you've got and build some people, on TV, and then later, sprinkle them in, which of course we'll talk about the men's tournament in a minute, because I think I have a pretty good feeling about who that Joker is going to be, and then it's like, okay, so what are you going to do there?
Last question on a wild card for the Joker.
Yes.
Do we know, is CJ Perry back? Where's the health on Miro's wife, formerly known as Lana?
I'm not sure, but I have seen people on the internet being like, it's gonna be Miro and Lana coming in.
If it's CJ, that could be a Joker that could easily lose to Brett Baker, but also get a cheap pop, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I thought about her, but then I'm like, why would you debut her in a match that she should get squashed in?
They do that all the time. AEW does that all the time. They debut a ton of folks that get squashed in their first match.
That would also be an interesting dynamic if Miro and Lana were the two Jokers.
That's interesting.
I could see it. I could see it working. You'd have to give them a big immediate push, which would however long that means in AEW these days. But they'd have to come up strong in that tournament to make it effective, or they get screwed and they become viciously angry. But that would be interesting if you're planning on bringing her in. But I think you ought to focus on Ruby Soho and Toni Storm and the real wealth of talent you're building up.
Ruby
says it's
already an afterthought. So
Ruby Soho,
and let's face it, Toni Storm's not that good. I don't think Toni Storm's.
Can we have that conversation? Y'all hyped her up so much. I was waiting to see her do amazing things, and since she's been in AEW, none of her matches have been super clean.
Did you see the finish of the Hater match? Like, she's not that good.
Yeah, her matches so far haven't been great. I think the bigger question is for Toni Storm is she over? Which I don't. No. That's what I'm saying.
No.
Everybody had a particularly good pop last night.
Everybody in Long Island would have been just fine if Hater went over and had to fight Brett Baker in round 2. Everybody would have been fine with that.
Yeah.
And story-wise, to me, that makes more sense. Like,
that's what I thought was going to happen, honestly.
Okay, I'm going to give one last batshit crazy prediction for the Joker, and then we're going to move on to the men's bracket. But Julia Hart and this turn of Julia Hart. Right? Like we're just edging on it. We're so close every time. And the black is spreading significantly. First it was like, oh, there's a little shadow, and then now like it's above and below. I think if we're looking to homegrown star to come in and turn heel and just be a nasty, person to go up against Riho, because that's who everybody's calling from the other bracket, like Riho or Ruby Soho.
Here's the thing. I'm interested too. But here's the thing. Wasn't she a first round loser in this tournament?
Oh, you're right. She did not.
And more importantly,
She lost to...
I can't remember, but yeah, she did lose. She lost a qualifying match.
And more importantly, can I say something more importantly?
What's
more importantly.
She missed her moment. Did
I thought
anybody
that
she missed her
was
moment
the worst
last week?
segment on that show.
They should have done the payoff.
They should have just let her hit the Varsity Blondes with the chair, turn heel. Everybody wanted it. They were going crazy for it, and she missed her moment. She's gonna do it. We all know that, but they missed her moment.
They came back from break, and she was like still on the ring steps.
Still in the ring.
It was like, what are they doing? Like, what's going on here?
I had this immediate creative writing session with myself when I saw this, and I said, when those lights went out right before House of Black appeared, they were off for an extended period of time. Actually, like feel like a few extra beats. I really thought because she was in the ring in her varsity gear,
she was going to take it off because
when the lights came back on, she was going to be in all black, and they're going to be in the ring, and that would have been the turn. That's what I was hoping, but they really should have paid it off. So yes, I think she's missed her window with this. They're going to probably try something maybe again, but
they'll do
what
it.
What do you do now?
Inevitable, but when they gave her the chair and everybody was going nuts, and they were just like, "Do it," because they knew it was coming, and it was like, "Come on!" And I did like when Malachi Black gets mad and just like takes the chair from her. It's like just like you know, come on. But
I don't know.
I think they missed it.
I don't know. Again, long-term storytelling. Yes, that was the expected moment, but Tony Khan sometimes he's very like, I'm listening to the fans and we're doing what you want me to do. And sometimes Tony Khan like will miss a natural door and then come in through the window and everybody's like, oh my God, that was so amazing. So I'm still waiting. I still have hope for young Julia Hart, especially now that she does the thing where she's like spells her name and then does the like I'm going to cut your neck. Like, and she's becoming more badass. Her facial expressions in the ring are really upping, and her in-ring work is at a place that if you'd have told me a year ago she'd have been that good, I wouldn't have believed you.
She's so young. I mean, isn't she only like
20 years old, not under 21. I feel like
the jerk of this group now because I also think that she's not a very good wrestler.
There's a lot of good talent in AEW. She is getting better. Not each match, but each quarter she's getting better.
I agree with Megan. From where she was a year ago to where she is now, she is a better wrestler. Compare that to another newcomer, and we always give Jade a lot of crap about where she is in the ring. Compared to Julia Hart, Jade is a Ferrari, like Mercedes F1. I'm talking about in regards to a 12-month progression.
Yeah.
You're saying who's a better 12-month? Who's went the furthest in a year? I'm not even talking about storyline, just in-ring work. I don't think Julia's got a ways to go. I think.
Yeah, well, I cut her slack because she's 20 years old. I mean, one of the big differences between and this is depending on how you look at it. I don't know if it's a positive or negative, but one of the big differences between AEW and WWE is, for the most part, WWE is hyper focused on the Performance Center development, and so by the time somebody gets on NXT even, but especially the main roster, like with a couple of limited exceptions, these people have years of they are seasoned pros, even if they might be 25 years old when they get on Raw. Like they've been wrestling for years, or in the Performance Center for years, or whatever. AEW, there's opportunities for people who are less experienced, like Jade, like Julia Hart, to get on TV. And I think there's an upside and a downside to that. And I think that, what you all are talking about now shows both of those, I think.
I don't know. I watch, every time I tune into WWE, I'm like, it's a botch fest. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm biased.
I will say
I'll own that.
Julia Hart's a graduate of the Nightmare Academy, like the school. And it's on YouTube. You can watch their graduation matches. It's awful. It's tough. It's tough to watch. It's a tough take.
Everybody has to start somewhere, Chief.
Men's division. I'm sorry.
Men's division. Okay, so I'm going to run down the whole list, and then we're going to talk about the results we got last night, and then I want to discuss Joker and who we think is going to take the whole thing. So on one side, we have Rey Fenix versus Kyle O'Reilly, who has grown on me so much. I did not love him, but I think he's wonderful now. We have Samoa Joe versus the Joker. Then on the other side, we have Jeff Hardy versus Darby Allin, which we saw last night, and Darby Allin will be progressing. And then we had
Jeff
Adam
Hardy will be progressing.
Jeff Hardy will be progressing.
Jeff Hardy's going to be. Why did I say Darby? I just in my spirit was like Darby was going to win. It's still in there. And then Adam Cole versus Dax Hardwood, which we saw Adam Cole go over last night. So we know at least in that semi we have Jeff versus Adam. On the other side, we've got Samoa Joe versus the Joker. And last night, on one of the pieces that we saw, Samoa Joe addressed the fact that people thought maybe it was going to be Jay Lethal, or maybe it was going to be the tall guy that hangs out with Sanjay Dutt, whose name I still have not committed to memory.
Satnam
Singh. And he said it wasn't either one of those. So thoughts on who our Joker might be?
Now, one thing that Elliott, correct me on this, because I like conceptually the idea that Miro and CJ Perry like come out together as the Jokers on the same. But those two matches with the Jokers, those are on the same show, correct? Is that right? I think that's what they said last night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'll be next
so
Wednesday,
that I think lends at least some plausibility to that. But to me, I think it's Cesaro.
I've seen Claudio just changed his name on Twitter and seems to be reactive, which is always a sign that something, well, not always, but traditionally is a sign that something's coming from somebody. He also patented or got the copyright on the name CSRO. So we will see what comes of that. I would love to see Cesaro, but honestly, I'd love to see Miro back. I can't lie. Like, Miro is amazing, and to see him come back into the tournament and maybe hopefully get a strong finish, I'd be really happy about that.
Yeah, now that I've had y'all's opinions on it, I'm reflecting. I believe, it makes sense that Cesaro, whatever his name is going to be, Claudio Cesaro, is going to come back. And that's another toy he's acquired. It's a great toy. I love that toy. I wish that toy had jumped ship a year ago and done this. So now you have a lot of guys who have worked together for a long time. There's now this sort of WWE base, but I don't begrudge any thought about these AEW signing WWE wrestlers. WWE is the only thing in town for 20 years. Where are they supposed to come from? So when you're signing the best talent, they all just were in the one place where there was. That just sort of is that. So I like the prospect of it. Now that since I sort of like brought it up, now I kind of want Miro and CJ for it to be. But either way, it's someone else they're going to slot into the mix, and hopefully they won't forget about Swerve, and they won't forget about Dante, and they won't forget about Lance Archer, and they won't forget about Eddie Kingston. They won't forget about, and you go on and on and on.
So that's the same argument as Julia, though, right? Because Swerve and Dante both did not get a spot in this. They were in the earlier.
Yeah, lots of people to have to fit in somewhere.
So you're saying it's not going to be Leo Rush? Again? Will you say Leo Rush's chances?
Retire is.
Yeah, as you're saying, Leo Rush's chances are lower at this point.
Slim to none. I'm voting Miro. Sheets, who you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna get Cesaro, and I do think that it would be cool if it was Wyndham, but
oh my god, I would love that.
Yeah,
but I think all the signs point to Claudio Cesaro. He's active back on social. He's saying he's back. He's very excited about it, and I think it's just a matter of time. So I think it's him.
Does he go over on Joe?
I think he goes over, but I think he goes over because of Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal and those guys. Yeah. So Samoa Joe's already champion. Jay Lethal and those guys come out and ruin the match. I mean, they've got to figure out some of these finishes. The Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, Swerve coming out, like the Starks Jungle Boy match ending, I didn't love because I knew there was going to be some shenanigans, but I do think there'll be shenanigans with the Samoa Joe match that leads to what we all know is going to happen. Jay Lethal, Samoa Joe, Ring of Honor Championship type faction. That's going to happen for sure.
Okay, I'm going to jump in really quick. This has nothing to do about what we're talking about. We still have to talk about actually a WWE thing, which I can cut from the program happily.
No,
but you mentioned you did not like the Swerve, Jungle Boy, Ricky Starks interference.
I don't like the ending. I don't like the ending. I thought the match was fine.
Here's the thing. I believe, again, Tony Khan is a man of a long story. He ain't going to just give it to you real quick, but he is going to spoon feed it to you. So Swerve came out and interfered, hoping to help Jungle Boy, but instead cost Jungle Boy the match. At the end, I don't know if you noticed, but at the end, there was a very clear stare down between Swerve and Keith Lee and Ricky and Will Hobbs and Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. There was even a moment where it looked like Lucha was gonna like swing on Swerve or do like a tail kick on him, right? So I think what this is setting up is some sort of like trifecta tag team championship run. And I think Swerve and Keith Lee or Ricky and Hobbs are going to get it, and then that sets up their feud. But now you have a reason for like the three of them to kind of have beef. Ricky and Hobbs already have beef with everybody, but now Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus have reason to include Keith Lee and Swerve into this beef.
You're exactly right. The one thing that would have made that whole situation better is if Jungle Boy had just went off on Christian Cage at the end. That's what I thought was going to happen. When Jungle Boy stayed in the ring for super long and then Cage walks up, I was going to wait for Christian Cage to be like, you're a loser, you never win, let me like, blah, blah, blah.
He gave him the gentle dad hug.
Yeah. But to your point, and again, we don't want to belabor this, the Starks Jungle Boy match, the ending is troubling. Was it the Swerve and Starks match that Taz comes down? It's getting a little ridiculous. We've got to figure out how to get a Ricky Starks match that ends a Team Taz match that ends cleanly. And I don't think we've had one since the Jay Lethal match. It was an amazing match. But it's been several weeks now of Team Taz not being able to finish matches in a way that
with this kind of with this sort of storyline sheets, this makes me think about what I wanted to say a segment ago. What Megan said about, she said, TK. Is it just TK who is sitting here deciding all this? Who is
I have no faith in TK.
Who's actually writing this?
Right.
Is TK like Vince, where he's getting some sort? He has less. He does not have the same size. I hope not.
He's out buying soccer teams.
Who are the minds that are actually making the decisions not to do these sort of things that seemingly the most logical? We're giving it a label of TK. Is it Jerry Lynn? Is it Dean Malenko? Is there a team that includes Arn Anderson still? Is it being run by that team, or is it the Bucks? And is it Kenny emailing something in? And Cody was trying to bring some more thought to it, and it got clicky in a way, like not clicky in the old sense, but clicky in the way of like, no, TK is our boy. We got it. Kenny and the Bucks. Like I'm suspect of the Bucks because I'm not a huge Bucks fan, and if they're EVPs, they have a lot of decision power. I'm really now that AEW is legit, a couple years old on TV, it's a semi-worthy competitor to look at to the only product we've had. Mm-hmm. Now I'm curious, like, okay, I'm taking it seriously. Who's really making some of these decisions to put this product on television? So who can we hold directly? Who can we really think about holding accountable to and praising when they get it right?
Well, I think like something that I've loved seeing, and this is since the onset of AEW, is that the wrestlers themselves, at least certain ones within the industry or within the company, have a lot of say-so on their own direction. And there's a lot of trust that, there's going to be a payoff. This is going to work. I read recently the Regal, Bryan Danielson, John Mox thing. Like that was Danielson and Mox that came up with it. John Moxley named it Blackpool Combat Club. Like,
if those are the answers for some of these things, great. That is the way it should be going. I just hope that there can come a day where, for a time constraint or because TK has some just random idea about something, he doesn't let something that should definitely happen go. And when those little incidents happen, they build up, and it's never gonna be perfect, but I want AEW to really succeed. I want there to be another like Wednesday Night War, like there used to be. So I just hope we have a lot of concerns about TK for a lot of reasons. I want there to be smart people in the room, as always, because I like the product.
Speaking of problematic executive directors and producers of shows, let's talk about WWE. Da-na-na, natural segue. So again, I love individuals at the company. The company as a whole is terrible and the worst. But Roman Reigns, somebody that I like and think is great, was in the original faction with my favorite wrestler, Jon Moxley, The Shield. Roman apparently has a new contract. He's renegotiated. This week there was a house show where he said he was starting a new phase of his life and that he wouldn't be here as much. Initially, people were thinking that maybe he's retiring, maybe he's stepping back. But what came out later in the week is that he has a new contract. It includes significantly less dates as far as the house show commitments and things of that nature. So people are saying that the goodbye at the house show was kind of, because he specifically said, like, you're not going to be seeing me here as much. So people say that was specifically saying goodbye to the house show crowd. So less dates. And then he is also starting a 10-week hiatus where he will be on a 10-week vacation. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he's like all the champions right now. Like, doesn't he have like all the belts at the moment?
Yes.
Yeah, the bloodline is.
So what does that do for those storylines? What do we think this will do for ratings? Because Roman has, I'm a nerd and I like looking at the dude Brandon Thurston's tweets of the different, like, he breaks it down by segment on like a viewing draw. Roman is the highest draw for the company, has been for a really long time. What does this mean for the championships? And then what does this mean for WWE as a whole if we're looking at Roman becoming more of a Brock Lesnar, The Rock in his later years, where it's just kind of popping in every once in a while, a few weeks before pay-per-view, doing a match, and then being off TV again? What do you guys think is coming with this?
I've thought about this a lot, even before I knew we were going to talk about it tonight, because what's interesting about this is the last time that WWE was in this situation was circa 2017, 2018, when you had Brock Lesnar and I forget, they swapped which titles the show. I think he was the Universal Champion at the time, which was on Raw. And at the time it was like, so he was a part-timer, of course, but he held a championship, one of their men's world championships. But it was not as bad because you still had the WWE title, which was at the time, it was Cena and Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton, Jinder Mahal, AJ Styles. So you had a group of guys who were, the point being, you could still have a main event on your pay-per-view that was like a world title. Now you've invested all this time and effort, creative, into having both titles on the same person, which I think is correct and really interesting. But if he's going to be gone for this long, I think you're exactly right. I think it really raises some questions creatively about like how this is going to work. What I think they're doing is, I think what it looks like to me anyway, and again, I'm a WWE apologist a little bit, so maybe I'm seeing things through rose-colored glasses. I think they are going to double down on their women's division. And I think that you're seeing, that's why all of a sudden Alexa Bliss is back. Asuka, who was gone forever for no reason, is back. Of course, they've brought in Ronda Rousey to be sort of more of a long-term player and a more frequent player. I think that's going to be the direction that they go to kind of pick up the slack. I also think that's why they have delayed the tag title unification. Because I think having those titles available to be high-profile matches on on major shows also is something they're going to need to do. But I still don't think. I mean, if they still believe in the long-term plan, I still don't see Roman dropping those titles before WrestleMania. I could be wrong.
I think the plan is, I think they're sold still in that plan to keep the title on him until he faces The Rock. So that means the top level feuds are going to have to be people who are chasing that title with an increased load, perhaps on Paul Heyman carrying those titles out there, which is great. Fine. That's fine by me.
Also, what he did for Brock in 2017, 2018, it was the same idea. It's just more challenging now because he has both titles. But yes.
Yeah, and the Usos will likely unify that tag team title, and they'll be the placeholders. And before you know it, Roman will be back to set up the next. He's doing just a few stadium shows, and that's how I think. And Drew McIntyre is going to probably spearhead that.
Please no.
I know.
Stop.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Eventually, he'll square off with
move Cody up or something.
Well, Cody will
Drew
be
McIntyre of it all.
Cody will be who Drew challenges probably ultimately.
I will say the first thing I thought about this news was good for Roman. That's what I thought. I thought good for Roman for him to be in a position in WWE to negotiate which seemingly is on his terms, and to start to get the star treatment that we've seen John Cena, The Rock, and those folks that went on to do Hollywood type things. He's in rarefied air now. He deserves it. He's carried that company, for I don't know how long now with the Tribal Chief writing and character. It's just been amazing. The streak. He's been phenomenal, and he's been phenomenal during a time where, let's just call it what it is. He had the health setback, comes back from that. COVID's going on. I'll never forget the images of him walking through the crowd with a mask on during a pay-per-view to do what he needs to do. He's everywhere. He's been ESPN. He does all the big stuff. And I really, really love what he's done with this run and the way he's handled his leadership. Because again, wrestling's wrestling, in-ring work, characters and all that is great. Roman Reigns has an amazing heart for children. He has an amazing heart for things that he's doing with Make-A-Wish. He's a great ambassador for what they're doing. And good for him that the company is allowing him to do what he needs to do based off of, I think, to the betterment of him and to, as you guys were saying, the detriment of creative, at least. It might not be detrimental to the company in the long term, but it's definitely detrimental to immediate creative. And this is not going to get, if it goes the way we think, it won't go to a point where Roman Reigns will be a person that's like, I never want to see WWE again type thing. So all of that said, I don't know what happens. I just don't want, I'm just so over Drew McIntyre. I'm so over Drew McIntyre. I will say, last thing I'll say about this part, and he was already out of it, but there was news this week that Big E's not healing as fast as he would like, or the ways that he wanted to heal. So it's going to be even longer, much more difficult. And I just, there's a part of me that would have loved to seen him kind of fill in a lot of this void here. But anybody but Drew at this point is where I am with it.
Okay, I'm going to jump in and say one last thing, and then we're going to move on because we are quickly running out of time. But I think Tom brought up a good point, and you solidified it for me further, Cheats, so I have to say it. Like, at this point, I think Vince may end up being hoisted by his own petard. Like, he has made Roman the face of the company. When you think about WWE, as far as the men's division, like, you have your guys that are like always there, always around, Brock's and Seth's and stuff like that. But like, Roman has been the guy. And I think outside of that, you have people like Sasha, who has really elevated to a mainstream media face of WWE, Becky to a lesser degree, but outside of the women's division, there isn't a male face of the company that I think can carry it the way that Roman has. And again, I think like it comes down to putting all your eggs in one basket. And Vince has put so much time and energy and effort and training into Roman, and given him so much time and storylines on TV. I think you find yourself in a situation where if you don't have that face, you haven't cultivated another face that's ready to take that spot. So I don't know what it's going to look like for them. I'm interested to see how it shakes out. And I welcome any viewers that find it hard to continue to watch WWE without your favorite Roman Reigns to come over to AEW, where you have multiple choices of people that you could love, including his former Shield partner, Jon Moxley. So, moving right along.
No, just real quick. Let me just add to this real quick, Megan. I agree with you. I don't wish a lot of personal success or well wishes or happiness or health on Vince McMahon. However, what he does have, though, if you look at the last 40 years of WWE, this is kind of his MO. He has banked on this risk lots of times, from Hogan to Rock to Stone Cold to Savage at one point to Michaels and Hart. He's always sort of had this. So while they're challenging times, he didn't quite have this running talent. It'll probably be okay for as much as, you certainly need to care about it. And, a lot of us will.
Well, again, if you no longer enjoy the product, I encourage you to join us on Wednesday night on CBS. Okay, I've got to put my glasses on because this is small text, but I'm going to take it off first. Okay, big announcement. Your favorite wrestling podcast out of Richmond, Virginia is traveling to the nearby DC this Saturday to attend New Japan Pro Wrestling's Capital Collision. We are certainly planning something about possibly getting together immediately after the show and doing a quick recap of the show. We'll definitely be talking about it next week. And I know I, for one, am going to have my phone in my hand and tweeting like crazy. Lots of pictures, lots of action. So I'm going to run down the card, and I want to know what match everybody's the most excited for. Because I look like a librarian. I'm a struggle read, but you guys are going to see me go like this. So which match is everybody the most excited for? Some of these, I don't know some of these people. So I can't get super excited, but we'll start at the bottom of the card. Ren Narita versus Carl Fredericks. Anybody know either one of those?
No.
You're on mute, Elliott.
I'm aware of Ren Narita, but I have no skin in this. Like most of these matches, it's going to be for curiosity and just like sheer excitement.
Okay, so then we have Team Filthy, which is Tom Lawler, Danny Limelight, who I loved from the pandemic run with AEW. He just is a great spirit. J.R. Kratos, Royce Isaac, and Jor-El Nelson versus Fred Rosser. Who was he in WWE?
Darren Young.
Yeah. Darren Young. David Finlay, Rocky Romero, who I'm quickly falling in love with from Roppongi Vice, Tanga Lowe, and Yuya Mora.
Some names I recognize.
Yeah, any faces in there you're interested for? I'm interested to see Danny Limelight again. My kids actually got to meet him when we went down to Jacksonville. He was just a workhorse during the pandemic. Like, Danny Limelight was out there losing every day. God bless him. Like, every week, Danny Limelight came out and worked his butt off. I think it's a shame they didn't keep him after that. Okay, then we've got Great O'Khan versus Chase Owens. I'm not familiar with either one of those. Elliott, is there anything you can tell us about them?
Kind of similar to the other one, Narita. I'm familiar with Great O'Khan. That's about it. I think I've heard this other name before, but again, another one that, like, I've heard a lot of these, Tom Lawler, these names, David Finlay, heard these names sort of in the wind. I've gone down some YouTube rabbit holes, but for a lot of these matches, except for that Bullet Club match and then the main event, these are all sort of going to be new for me. And, where I'm seeing some of these new guys I've heard of for the first time.
Do you know if Tom Lawler goes by Filthy Tom Lawler? Is that the same guy that Mox just fought?
Yeah.
Look that up for me real quick.
Yeah, it is.
Ooh, that match was bananas. If you guys haven't seen it, he did just it was filthy. He lived up to his name. Match with John Moxley in the Pacific Northwest. What's the wrestling promotion out there called, Elliott?
It is called. So you just 1 second. Sorry, flaming.
Where's it at? Where's it at?
The one
it's the Pacific Northwest one. They just
Defy.
Defy.
Yeah, like I can answer some of these. There you go. Yes, defaulting by Elliott. I can answer some of these indie questions.
I appreciate it. Ty would be very proud of you.
I'm indie cheats now.
Have you watched the match with John Moxley and Filthy Tom Lawler? It was insane.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably the bloodiest match I've ever seen, and I am a purveyor of John Moxley matches, so I've seen some bloody matches. And he put up a hell of a fight. And what was funny is at the end of the match, John Moxley specifically said that Filthy Tom was a friend of the Blackpool Combat Club. So we'll see if there is any, whether it's him getting pushed up further through New Japan Pro. But I'm really interested to see what crossovers we get with this new partnership. Okay, so then we have Brody King versus the murder grandpa himself, Minoru Suzuki, which I'm super excited to see.
Yeah, I don't.
Are you guys hyped for Murder Grandpa? I love Murder Grandpa. I think he's great.
I think that's gonna be sort of that might be a match, a night stealer of a match, simply because the crowd's gonna be really behind Suzuki, and Brody King's he's just a dirty beast. So that's sort of old. That's gonna be violent and it's gonna be loud when those chops hit, and I'm excited for those the crowd getting quiet for those chops.
Me too. Next up we have Eddie Kingston versus, I'm not even gonna try to say his first name because I always murder it, but Ishii. Since I've been exploring New Japan wrestling, Ishii has been one that I just fell in love with, have gone back and watched old matches, the strong style, because people like Suzuki, and even before that, Shinsuke Nakamura, there was people that I was like, this is a really cool fighting style that they do. And I've started watching Ishii because they have matches from time to time. And the thing I loved the most was on the last New Japan Pro show, Ishii was wrestling somebody and they were like, no titles on the line, no credit. These two just want to get in there and beat the shit out of each other. And I was like, yes, this is my jam. So I think Eddie Kingston and Ishii is going to be a crazy match. And I think it's a big match for Eddie Kingston because he is a big follower of that strong style. When he does his machine gun chops and stuff, you see a lot of the New Japan Pro style in him, especially the old head. So I'm excited about that. Are you guys hyped for the Eddie Kingston match? How are you feeling?
Well, we saw yesterday that Eddie, who made his return last night, is ready to go. He looks healthy. He has a big welt on his face, but it was just his first appearance in a while, and let us know that he's going to be able to compete, and he'll be there Saturday. And I'm growing to really like Eddie Kingston work. I like that sort of working man's attitude, and he's going to get his ass kicked. But yeah, I think
it's going to be beautiful.
I think he's honored to do it.
Okay, so then we have Bullet Club, which is Jay White and a guy whose name I can't say. And then that's Hikulu. I feel so bad. Names are important, and I am slaughtering them with my colonizer tongue, and I apologize profusely. Then we have Chaos, which is Okada and Trent Beretta. I'm excited to see Chaos.
That's for me. Seeing Okada live is probably the coolest thing.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I definitely want to see Okada. I'm excited to see what he does live, and it's exciting to see. So I'm really pumped about that.
Yes, and then I do think this is going to be my match of the night. I'm sure it's predictable. But the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship 4-way match, we got Tanahashi versus Will Ospreay versus Juice Robinson versus my boy Jon Moxley. I am most excited about this match since he's been back from WWE. John has put on amazing matches with both Will Ospreay and Juice Robinson, so this is just going to be crazy.
I'm excited to see Ospreay.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot about him, seen his matches, and so I'm excited to see Ospreay live to see how he really gets down. That'll be great.
exactly. He's my favorite non-major promotion wrestler. Has been for a couple of years. Him and Zack Sabre Jr. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that I'm going to be able to see him, that's going to be it's hyped about that.
Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting match. Excited for it.
I also think we're probably going to see some more, whether it's promos, segments, people popping up. I think there is a continued build towards Forbidden Door, and this is because there's so many AEW people on it. I think this is going to be a natural buy for AEW fans. So I think we may get some story building towards Forbidden Door. All right, we're already over, so we're going to go fast. But Elliott, what is our match to watch for the week?
Because we are going to Capital Collision, we are getting our full New Japan on this week. I did a little diving as like you, Megan. I'm starting to absorb more New Japan and getting to learn more about things. So for those who are first learning about it like me, and for those who are diehards, like I think Tom is, right? Yeah, I think he'll agree with me that the pick of the week I recommend is from 2016. It's from Wrestle Kingdom 10. These two guys had just classic matches, but this one was sort of ranked among the highest. Okada, who came in as a champion against Tanahashi. Their rivalry is legendary, and I think one of the consensus is this was among their best clash. They went 36 minutes at the Tokyo Dome. Tokyo Dome had 25,000 plus people. Like that's like Final Four, stadiums, huge. So that one, I watched that today, and like you can go to France and go to the Louvre. You can go to Egypt and see frescoes, but if you want to actually see art, just go watch Okada versus Tanahashi from Wrestle Kingdom 10. That's my pick of the week.
And it preps you for two of the wrestlers we're going to see this weekend.
And they're both going to be in the building. Yeah.
All right. So it's that time. How we close every week here at Wrestling Chat with Friends. We always have to end with our heel of the week because, people are terrible. So let's identify our heel of the week. Tom, I will give you the privilege of going first because you are our ultimate worrier.
Yeah.
What are you worried about this week? Who's pissing you off?
I have a very controversial.
Ooh. This unlike the Warrior.
Jim Ross. Jim Ross's commentary, look, greatest of all time, no question about his credentials, and the man has been through a lot. We know that. Mm-hmm. And so I say this with all due respect. His commentary, I feel like, is, as it is now, hurting the product. He says stuff that is just bizarre or just wrong. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, wow, it's
he's starting not to fit.
Yeah. It's distracting, and the what makes it worse to me is that you have somebody of a similar vintage, similar background, and Tony Schiavone, who hasn't, to me, is super excited, enthusiastic, focused, and really I think adds a lot to that broadcast. Whereas Ross, it's like, man, he kind of alternates between saying things that sound like canned lines from commentary from a video game to saying stuff that is actually counterproductive or distracting to what's happening in the ring. So again, all due respect, I love his work, but I'm
I get it. I think also when you have such dynamic and thorough announcers such as like Excalibur and even Taz, it's hard to enjoy JR when like you have such a higher level of commentary on Rampage and then even on like Dark Elevation. You know, a lot of times they have Ricky Starks out. They have, you know, Eddie will come out and do commentary. When we're seeing such a higher level of calling spots and explaining history, one thing with JR is like, he'll shit on an angle. Like he'll be like,
yes.
Why is he doing that? That's stupid. Right. Like that. Okay, I accept it. It was a controversial take, but maybe one that is growing in popularity.
Yeah,
Elliott.
There's a position called emeritus for a reason. They should be used.
Okay, Elliott, who is your heel of the week?
Well, Tom either forgot or he chose to ignore that the heels can be non-wrestling, so he may be ill prepared for what's about to come.
Okay, it can be wrestling or non-wrestling. I'm supportive of either.
I've been feeling really good the last few days, so I've tried my best not to feel really shitty or angry at anybody any more than just sort of your general run-of-the-mill day. So what I'm really going to do is just sort of like softly serve it up to you, Megan, because I know you have something to say. I know it's in line with what I want to say. So I'm really just going to give the assist to you and just say a lot of the decisions that the people who have been elected to lead in the last several months, no matter how you believe, have let you down in one way or the other. And it's just sort of further proof that we have got to get ourselves back to the garden one way or another. So that's very gentle, just like our leaders, guys, you know, your heels, please get together. Please do what the people elected you to do and have just some scruples and try to be as least heelish as possible as often as you can. You have a very important job. Megan, off to you.
My heel of the week is Republicans and conservatives in general. I think we all were shocked, and no matter which side of the fence you fall on, you had some very strong feelings about the Supreme Court leak of the Roe Wade decision. I think there are some problematic precedents set that will go after additional rights that we're not thinking of, just because the privacy protections are being eroded in such a way that it will allow big decisions like Loving that decided interracial marriage, or Griswold that allows a woman to get birth control. Even a lot of people are saying that Ogenfold, the gay rights decision, will be overturned as well. I don't know. I saw a sign at a wrestling event maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it said pro science, pro choice, pro wrestling. And that's my vibe, right? Like, if the people we love on these programs every week can make choices to jump off of 20-foot high ladders because it's what they want to do, I think we can trust people to make decisions about what they do with their body. So in general, just the entire party and some Democrats. I don't forget you, D's, that aren't standing up and doing what you said you would do. So just a lot of disappointment in our leadership across the board right now.
That sign, by the way, that you just referenced, I think it was from a show in Texas, of all places.
It was on, yeah, I think it was in Texas, and it was on an AEW show, and turns out the guy that had it is like a total shitbag, but nonetheless, great sign. And it really, I don't know. I've always thought I know there's like a ton of conservatives and right-wing people in wrestling, but I don't know, if we can accept a guy in like face paint and 90s goth mesh jumping off of the side of a building, like I think we could be open to people's decisions about what they choose to do. But that's just me. So I'm gonna throw it to Cheats, and hopefully he'll end us on something a little less like sad and dystopian.
Much less, but we hit on this. Megan was down last week. We talked about it last week on last week's episode as the heel of the week. If you can go back and listen. But my heel of the week this week outside of wrestling is Charlotte FC. If you don't know who Charlotte FC is Charlotte's football club. They are an inaugural club in Major League Soccer, so they're an MLS team They play all the big boys in the United States. There's a thing that is happening right now called the U.S. Open Cup, and it allows Major League Soccer teams to play some of the minor league soccer teams in one of those in-season soccer tournaments. Last night, I had the honor of going to our home. It's equivalent to AA. I think it's called League One, but it's actually like the third tier league of soccer. The Richmond Kickers is our team. They play at City Stadium. They've been in Richmond. This is their 30th season. They hosted Charlotte FC last night in what was the biggest home crowd for a Kickers game since, I want to say, maybe 2018 when they hosted another MLS team.
We saw them host the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, it was massive. It was for the Kickers. It was 4,600 fans. Charlotte FC beat us 5-1. It was quite embarrassing. It was 1-0, and then Richmond tied it up, equalized it, and it was 1-1. And before we could blink in the second half, it went from 1-1 to 4-1, and I think it finished at 5-1. And so 4,600 fans, I would say 4,600 people there. Maybe there's 150 to 200 Charlotte fans, but the majority, 4,400 fans, went home pretty sad that we couldn't move on in the U.S. Open Cup. So Charlotte FC, best of luck to you in the MLS inaugural season, but you beat the bricks off of our home squad, and we're upset about it. So you're the heel of the week.
I curse you, Charlotte. You're cursed.
I support that. The Richmond Kickers are definitely a staple of Richmond, and there's nowhere better to go sit on the bench and have a PBR. A little nervous that we had like 4,600 people in one space, though, because, them COVID cases going back up. But
4,600 cases, 4,600 on one side. The City Stadium is so bad now that they can't use the far bleachers. They put ads all over them, and I thought it was like advertising dollars. It actually turns out that side is in fans can't sit there. It's in half. They got to tear it down and build a new. So
by the way, Megan, capacity of the arena for Capital Collision 4,600.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna be like double masked up, and apparently Chief is coming in a hazmat suit.
We're avoiding Megan at all costs. We're in the same section.
Queen of Quarantine would like to end this episode now. Always remember to follow us. Be like John Cena. Follow us on Twitter, WCWF Pod. Additionally, you can always catch us on any of the podcast platforms. And please go to familypn.com. Did I get it right?
TheFamilyPN.com.
The Family PN. I got to fix my little video. TheFamilyPN.com, where you can follow and subscribe to WCWF as well as the rest of the amazing podcasts in the Family Podcast Network. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, it is not over until the mat is counted out. So 1, 2, 3. Catch you guys next week, and maybe a very special episode on Saturday to recap Capital Collision.
We'll probably go live.
We'll probably go live.